This issue, the simulated restoration for you, is the Jiang Yalun shipwreck. This is the world's most shocking maritime disaster in China. Jiang Yalun shipwreck. The number of people killed was 3 times that of the Titanic. Conservative estimate should be around 3,000 people. So, this is the lesser-known Jiang Yalun shipwreck. How did it happen? Today, we will simulate for you, to restore the details of the incident. Let's rewind the time to 1948. At that time, the situation in the country was not very stable, especially in the coastal areas. Many people wanted to escape from the war-torn Shanghai. They boarded the ship. The ship Jiang Ya from Shanghai to Ningbo. The ship was over 100 meters long, displacement of about 3,365.7 tons, maximum passenger capacity of 1,186 people, built by a Japanese shipbuilding company in 1939 after the surrender of Japan in 1945. After the surrender of Japan in 1945, the ship was taken over by the Naval General Headquarters. The ship was then handed over to the Shanghai Merchants Bureau for operation. The Shanghai Merchants Bureau made simple modifications to the ship's hull. After a simple modification, the capacity of the ship was increased to 2,250 passengers in 1946. The ship started its first voyage. The route was from Shanghai to Ningbo. Since then, the route was named the Shanghai route. On this route, there was another ship named Jiang Yalun. He and Aaron Jiang were sister partners. They both departed from Shanghai and Ningbo at the same time on December 3, 1948. Jiang Yalun. As usual, on the route from Shanghai to Ningbo, there were at least 4,000 passengers on board, far more than the ship's capacity of 2,250 passengers. Most of them were Ningbo people working in Shanghai. Due to the situation, many factories have been shut down. Ningbo people who lost their jobs were returning home on the Jiang Yalun. The weather conditions were very good on this day. It was a good day for the ship to sail. At about 1600 hours in the afternoon, with the sound of the steam whistle, the ship Aaron Jiang slowly sailed out of Shanghai port. The journey was expected to take 12 hours. The people on board were very excited. They were finally on board the ship. They could go home for a reunion, but no one knew that a disaster was ahead. After a period of travel on the Jiang Yalun, the ship has arrived at Hangsha, 30 miles outside the mouth of Shanghai Wusong, southwest of Beilonggang Sea. Suddenly, the position of the electric explosion room of the ship, there was an explosion. The ship's communication system and electrical system were immediately paralyzed. The ship Jiang Yalun and could not send a distress signal to the outside world. When the ship is sailing at sea, if 6 short whistles are sounded, it was thought that the ship had sent a distress signal, but after the explosion of the ship, only a short siren sounded and then stopped. Then the ship was paralyzed. The whole ship was in darkness. A large amount of seawater began to pour into the ship's cabin. The first to suffer is the economy class. Many people only heard an explosion, then the seawater rose up with a crash. The Jiang Yalun began to tilt. Thousands of passengers were thrown into panic. Passengers rushed to the deck first, but as the ship was shaking violently, many people who boarded the deck fell into the cold water. This reminds me of the Titanic. The picture at that time, the passengers who fell into the sea water were either submerged or frozen by the cold water. What's even more unfortunate is that, at this time, there are still a large number of passengers locked in the cabin, because when the explosion occurred, when the ship's staff was checking the number of tickets and counting, in order to prevent the evasion of tickets, each cabin door is locked. After the explosion, the ship's staff left the passengers in the cabin. Each fled for their own lives. 10 minutes later, most of the ship was submerged. What is very strange is that, during the whole sinking process, not one person went to drop the lifeboats on board when the whole ship was sinking. The lifeboat was still firmly fixed on the Aaron Jiang. At about 19:30 at night, that is, 45 minutes after the ship's explosion, a nearby fishing boat, the Huafu 1, Huafu 2, arrived at the scene of the incident, immediately sent out a distress signal at sea, and immediately launched a rescue. But the rescue effect is very little. Only about 20 people were rescued. Another ship that passed by the area, Kinzuri motorboat, also joined the rescue team. The captain of the Jin Yuanli was named Zhang Han Ting. This ship is not large in tonnage. The rescue capability is not very strong either, but The captain still organized the ship's crew to rescue the passengers who fell into the water, ordered the crew to bring the ship's bow close to the wrecked ship, throwing a lifeline to the passengers who fell into the water. In fact, anyone who knows a little bit about navigation should know when a small ship is close to a sinking ship, the powerful whirlpool vortex will absorb the nearby small boats into, so the small boats involved in the rescue, usually they were far away from the rescue. But in order to rescue more passengers who fell into the water, the ship kept moving closer and closer to the wrecked Kong Rem. In a short time, the ship rescued 400 to 500 people. The ship's draft was getting deeper and deeper. The ship was in danger of capsizing. The captain finally ordered to cut the rescue cable. At once the passengers on the sea and the passengers on the air and deck kept crying out. The tragic situation was beyond description, but there was nothing we could do. If the rescue continues, it is likely that the ship would have capsized along with it. The captain tearfully cut the rescue cable. Afterwards, the total number of people on board the Kim Won Lee was 453. That's more than the total number of people rescued by other rescue vessels. At about 2200 hours p.m. Jiang Yalun's sister, Jiang Jinglun, finally arrived from Ningbo, but it was too long before the loss of time. Jiang Jinglun also only came up more than 200 people. The number of people who came up from all the ships was less than 1,000. A conservative estimate is that more than 3,000 people were killed in the shipwreck. The number of victims far exceeded that of the Titanic. Kim Won Lee, which made a great contribution in the rescue process, has been praised by people from all walks of life. There are also many kind-hearted people donated money to Captain Zhang Hanting to make up for the losses suffered during the rescue, but Ht Chang gave all the donations, all of them to charitable organizations. Later, Zhang Hanting was awarded the title of Honorary Citizen of Shanghai. This is the only person to receive this honor since the founding of the city of Shanghai after the sinking of the Jiang Yalun. We hired many organizations to salvage the wreck, but they all stopped because the price was too high. Among them was Japan. The price offered at that time was as high as $200,000. It was not until 1956 we were able to salvage the ship ourselves. After 8 years of sinking, the ship was salvaged, although the ship's hull was severely damaged. But after a professional evaluation, after 8 years in the sea, the Kong Arun is still worthy of restoration. After the restoration, the Jiang Yalun sailed again on February 4, 1959. The ship set sail again at Shanghai's 16 Shops Pier. The route was changed to Shanghai to Wuhan. The name of the Jiang Yalun was changed to Dongfanghong No. 8. Dongfanghong No. 8 sailed between Shanghai and Wuhan for another 24 years. She was officially decommissioned in 1983. In June 2000, Dongfanghong 8 was sold to a private owner. The owner was dismantling the ship when a fire broke out. The Jiang Yalun was lost.